Yeah, there you go.
Greetings, everyone, and thank you so
Hi.
much for joining us here at the
Yeah.
Priestess View. I'm Goddess Rhonda, and we have with us, as always, our beautiful Goddess Star.
Thank you. And hi again, beautiful yourself. I'm glad to be here tonight. Merry meet to everyone.
And I apologize so much for the delay, but here we are, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right in. So, as always, before we begin, we like to cast a circle of protection around us. All hail, our lords and ladies of the East, our brothers and sisters, our brother and patron, the sacred element of air, namaste. Divine honor, love, joy, peace, and respect to thee, my lords and ladies. I charge thee, please cause a barrier of protection through all of our walls that face your direction, from corner to corner and end to end. Let peace and protection reign herein. Thank you, and so it is.
So it is. And so mote it be.
So
All
mote it
hail
be.
our lords and ladies of the South, my brother and sisters, my brother and patron, the sacred element of fire. Namaste. Divine honor, love, joy, peace, and respect to thee. I charge thee, please cause a barrier of protection through all of our walls that face your direction, from corner to corner and end to end. Let peace and protection reign herein. Thank you, and so it is. So mote it be.
So it is, so mote it be. All hail, our lords and ladies of the West, our brothers and sisters, our sister and patron, the sacred element of water. Namaste. Divine honor, love, joy, peace, and respect to thee, my lords and ladies. I charge thee, please cause a barrier of protection through all of our walls that face your direction, from corner to corner and end to end. Let peace and protection reign herein. Thank you. So it is.
Yes, so mote it be. All hail, O lords and ladies of the North, my brothers and sisters, my sister and patron, the sacred element of earth. Namaste. Divine honor, love, joy, peace, and protection. I charge thee, please cause a barrier of protection through all of our walls that face your direction, from corner to corner and end to end. Let peace and protection reign herein. Thank you, and so it is. So let it be.
So it is. So mote it be. And we now bring down the divine white light from the sacred source of all well being and fill our spaces with peace and protection always. So it is.
So yes, so let it be.
So we weren't with you last week, but I certainly missed you, and I know Goddess Star did too.
Yeah, we did. We did. We
So
did
we're
miss.
glad to be back here with you at the Priestess View Show, which is brought to you courtesy of charmbystar.com and healinghennagoddess.com. So, welcome back. And today we're going to have a nice, relaxed wine and conversation show. What are you drinking, Goddess
Oh,
Star?
I have my normal. I went today to Trader Joe's and I picked up my Reggiano Lambrusco, and it's
Ah,
really awesome wine. Toast to all of you goddesses and gods in the chat room, Lord rather,
toast to
and
all.
wanted to toast to all of you. So mote it be.
So, mote it be. I also went to Trader Joe's today and got one of my favorites, which is the Green Fin Organic California Table Wine. And I threw in some apples and oranges just to mix it up. It
Oh
is
wow,
so good.
sounds like a great melding.
Oh, it's just delicious. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's turn that off. Get started with our show. And we've got a bunch of things to talk about tonight. And please, as we discuss these topics, please feel free to join our chat room and ask your own questions in there. Add your own opinions. We will read them. So that unless if you don't want us to read it, then put like don't read, next to it, and we won't put it on the air. But we would, love to read what you have to say and also hear your opinions as well.
Yeah, and you guys always have such interesting comments, that you come up with additionally with the show. And we love to say what it is you're saying, because usually it's quite accurate and it's quite going along with the show. So as usual, God, as Goddess Rhonda said, please do, you
Yes,
know.
please do. Please give us your opinion. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm having a little problem getting into the chat room, but I'll fight with that later. Let's go ahead and get on.
Okay.
Just so you know that I'm not being rude. I
Yeah,
just
I'll
having a
check in
difficult.
with them accordingly.
All right,
I'll
so
keep
we're going to
checking with
start
them.
off. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, got to start. What did you say?
So I said I'm gonna I'm gonna keep checking in on them.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to start off asking the question, should witchcraft be used in war? Now, a few weeks ago, I saw a Facebook post about witchcraft being approved in Nigeria to fight the Boko Haram. And I have no idea if I'm saying that correctly. Forgive me if I'm not. Although, since they're a bunch of terrorists, I actually don't feel bad if I say it wrong. So it is what it is. But anyway, I thought that that was awesome, that not just that a group of witches stepped up and said, you know what, let's take it from here. Let's go ahead and help you out with this. And that the government had the good sense to recognize that they are an ally. They're a force to be reckoned with, and welcome them into the fight, at least from what I have read so far. Now, I did some research, and I found out, or at least it's reported on the internet, that in 2014, an organization named the Witches and Wizards Association of Nigeria stepped
That is
in to
amazing.
start fighting. And I just thought that that was so awesome that these witches stepped forward. And it reminded
Right.
me that, it's not that long ago, Goddess Star, that
Right.
we did a series of online public rituals to stop terrorism, domestic violence. I mean, we did a bunch of things to fight back. And so I really respect it when witches step forwards as steward and they get on the front lines and fight back. And
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome. What do you think, Goddess Star?
I think actually it's pretty brave of them, not just awesome, because we hear so many reports out of Africa of witches being stoned and beaten and, ostracized, and even ones that are not witches, if they think in any way they cry witch, and they're easily laid upon. So I think it's kind of brave of them to step forward and say, we are uniting and we are going to do something about this. I think, wow, so proud of them, and more power to them.
That's what I say. More power to them. I wish that more of us would step up and do our thing. And I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who are doing that. I'm sure that there are plenty of witches out there who quietly do their own thing to help our country out, or help other countries out, or help whatever situations that we're
Right.
going through. But I would love for us to even be more public with it, because I think the more public we are with it, the more people get used to us, the bad stigmas um, can go away. I have a link. I'm getting into the chat room in a minute, and I'll put their Facebook page, the Witches and Wizards Association of Nigeria. They're on Facebook. You can actually probably just put them in there and you'll get it. And then after I read that, I saw another article from the Wild Hunt that is a call recruiting global witches from all over the world, to add their magic to the fight too. And it's not that long ago when Neptune went into Pisces, and it was a call for all metaphysicians, whether you call yourself a witch, a wizard, whatever you call yourself. It was time for those people who are Neptunian, which is what we are,
Right.
to step up to the front lines and use our skills. And I think we may be actually coming into a time when our skills really are desired and appreciated on more of a mass scale, instead of feared and ridiculed. And from what you've seen in media, television, all that stuff, are you getting that kind of goddess star? Like, what are you getting from all this? That suddenly people are coming forward and they're saying, you know what, we're witches and we're going to fight too.
Right. I'm seeing that, but one of the things I'm seeing is that they're using Facebook as a means to gather. You see so many peace groups, and they're all combining with witches, and they're saying, okay, we're not witches, but we all believe in a particular thing, and they're unifying for whether it's peace or different things like what you and I have done, or like this, the wizard one. And it was interesting that they approached the government about it, and the government, responded in kind, as like, yes, please go ahead. They didn't just, and they did the right thing. They didn't just go ahead and do it. They asked permission. May we do this to help you?
Yeah, how
And
about
they were
that?
approved. And I thought that the way that they went about it, everything that they did about it was wonderful. And in the sense of you, ethically speaking, if you want to go there, getting permission,
Yes.
as we always talk about. Um, and it was just so, I don't know. I don't even know how, there are no words to actually say how much I'm proud of them, because proud just seems so minute a word to describe,
Yeah.
because so you're kind of like you looking for a word that will fit it, but it's okay. I think we're kind of relaying the best way we can how much we're proud of them, because we know they're under fire in one form or another. Because when I visited their page,
Hmm.
I still have it up, but when I visited it, I could not believe, I'm thinking, it had like 30 something comments, and I'm going, great, here are people stepping up and saying nice things about what they're doing. And the majority of it was, only Jesus can do this, and Jesus saves, and Jesus did it, and different things like that. And I was just like, we do not go on their pages, so
You know,
why are they coming on
true.
ours to make negative comments or different comments? It, to me, is like I've told my mom, as a Christian, I'm only respectively saying, if I could respect you with your religion, respect mine.
Hmm.
And they don't give anyone else that respect, because theirs is always right.
Yeah.
So the whole time on that site is, if you go to it, is a lot of comments about Jesus did it, and Jesus saves, and Jesus this, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, that was my rant about it.
No, I'm glad that you did that. And yeah, the
Because I
goddess
think that's so
saves.
disrespectful on their part,
Hmm.
and to claim things that obviously was not. I think it's rude. We don't go on any of their pages or any of their things and do that. So to come to someone, it's like coming to someone, being invited, not even being invited, being
Right.
not invited to someone's home, and you walk in and you start telling them what's what in their own home, or where to put
Right.
their own furniture.
Right.
It's rude in every sense of the word. I don't care what religion you are, what race, rhyme, reason, gender, whatever it is just plain old rude. So that made me a little bit livid. Sorry.
Yeah, I
But
understand.
it's just like, let live and let live. And they're doing something in a good sense to help something do better,
Mhm.
but they had to take it down in another step. I
Right.
think that's just very negative on their part.
I agree. I agree 100%. They should be saying thanks for the help.
Yeah, and instead of
And
doing that, they didn't. Even the Pope have said, different things about other religions, and getting together and encouraging them in their own religion as a respect.
hmm.
So why can't they all do that? And be a bit magnanimous, and be the way, in their Bibles it says to respect other people and do not judge or anything like
How
that, but
about
yet they're the first ones to do that. So how many sins are they committing? I'm
that?
just going by their Bible. I'm just going by their Bible.
No, you're right.
By their Bible and all the things in it, how many sins are they committing? It's ridiculous.
It is. It's ridiculous. If you don't agree, then just stay on your own page and mind your business, basically.
Right, right.
Because I'm not going to go to your page and start talking about how great the goddess is. Maybe I should. Maybe that's what I need to do, is
Well,
to go to your
I
page.
had to stop. I literally had to, that thing that they turn off on your timeline where people cannot post on it. I had to
Hmm.
do that because I was done having those things posted on my page.
Really? You had to take the comment off?
I took it. No, I took not the comments. I just don't allow anyone to go and post on my
No, I mean,
page.
you had to take that option off.
Yes, well, not just for that, but for other people doing dumb things on my page. So I just set it all together, and it doesn't allow you to choose who you can and cannot have
Right,
on there.
right, right.
So I just said, okay, I'm sorry, I don't need you coming on my page to do that, and I don't understand. It's the same thing as you get, I'm sure you get it too, where you get people with friend requests and you go and you check their page and they're all very Christian with
Yeah.
big crosses on their pages, and you're like, why are you trying to be my friend? we are definitely not on the same wavelength. So I think that would be, going against it, and that will delete their friend request.
Mhm.
So why, if they're trying to be friends, they're trying to put something on my page. That's the way I see it.
No, you're right. I'm
Because I
very.
don't go looking for them. There's so much things on Facebook. We don't go looking for them.
Mhm.
We're too busy for that nonsense. We don't go, as they would say, as a friend of mine would say, we don't go shitting in their front yard. Don't come shitting in the house.
No, exactly.
Excuse me, I had to say that.
No, you're absolutely right. I agree with you 100%. And I've seen it, people, I get a lot of friend requests every day, and I will go and look at your page. And if all I'm seeing is Jesus loves you and crosses, then I have to assume that you're spying on me. And
Right.
I'm not going to go ahead and invite you in.
Yep.
You've got to have at
I
least
just
something. You've got to have at least a pentagram or something to show me that we have something in common, some
right,
spiritual affiliation.
right, right.
Otherwise,
Yep.
I'm not just going, because I've gotten burned doing that, just letting people be my friend, and I won't do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Because you're thinking they're coming in good faith and they're not.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
there's their religion for you.
Exactly. Well, I think that we're in agreement that it's a good thing that witches are stepping up, or magical people, not everybody calls themselves a witch, magical people are stepping up to the front lines and adding their powers and abilities and skills to fight for justice and freedom. But do you think that as magical people, as witches or wizards, however you term yourself, do you think that we should concentrate all of us should concentrate our efforts to combat the Boko Haram, or should we each pick a cause that means something to us as an individual? Now, when we did our Universal 7-day candle ceremonies, we chose a variety of topics. We kept shifting it around, doing topics that we felt were important to us. And of course,
Yeah.
fighting terrorism overseas is, it's actually a preventive measure, because we don't want them coming in. We don't want to
Yeah.
have to
Just spilling
start
over
the
on
fight.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once they get over here, we want to keep them way over there where they can't do anything to us. But there's so many other things going on. We've got the Flint water debacle. We've got domestic terrorism going on, all kinds of illnesses, cancer, lupus, Lyme disease, whatever you can think of. There are so many causes. So then do you think that we should gather our resources and fight one thing at a time? Or should we go ahead and just work on our causes that mean something to us as individuals?
Well, I'll tell you something. I'm looking at the chat room to make sure, because the goddesses Ginny and Tamara, they all kind of agreed with us about how rude they were. So I just wanted to make sure. Well, one of the things I have to say is I think it's great saying that we can all pool our energies into one big cause. I think that, first of all, we don't know what type of witchcraft they practice, so I think it's best if they stick to their kind of witchcraft and practice theirs for that particular cause that they're doing. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of times I find our magics tend to work more so when we are picking a cause that's almost personal to us. Because if you notice, okay, like for instance, just to give you an example, it's a mundane thing. For me, I came from a real estate background as an agent and a broker,
Mm-hmm.
and I did magic for finding an apartment years ago, back in 1996, and this is New York, no matter what you say, and I did a spell which pertained to me, and the oil and everything that I created for the spell was all based on what it is I needed. So it's called Apartment Find. And I wanted to find something that I could buy without having to go and get a mortgage after selling my apartment in Manhattan. So I did a spell, and I did, of course, the mundane part of it and put out a flyer and stuff like that and offered a reward of $500 cash. And to this day, people can't believe I bought an apartment, a two-bedroom apartment, for $2,000. And
Mm-hmm.
I think because I was in the field of real estate and that was personal to me, you're able to work certain magics because you're coming from that or from whatever background you're coming from. You know what I mean? In terms of where you know your energies for the type of thing you want with real estate, because I came from that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I mean, it could be wrong, it could be right, but I believe that, and I think that's why it works so well for me in that particular thing. And people have told me that when they buy my particular oil for real estate of some kind, and how well it works for them. And I think it's because I put that energies in it for that, and I know what I wanted out of it, the results I wanted from it. So it kind of worked really well within that realm. Whereas even the universal 7-day candles we did, the ceremonies, they meant something to us in our hearts, either through friends we know or maybe personal experiences. So we worked on that from our heart. It became our passion. You know what I
Right.
mean? Um, it's kind of like, okay, remember when we put out the ad for this today, I mean, or yesterday or today when we put it out, one of
Mm-hmm.
my friends that used to live in New York, Joseph, he said to me, remember that story about in Britain at the time of the of with the Luftwaffe? They tried to come to Britain and take over, and a bunch of witches got together from different covens and groups, and they did a big spell that they did for I'm not sure exactly how long, whether it was 1 week or 2 weeks or whatever it was,
Right.
to
I've
make
heard of that.
sure that Hitler did not come that way.
Right.
And Hitler had it as a plan on his charts of everything, along with his plans to dominate and take over that part of Britain. It never
Right.
happened. It never happened, and it cost some of them their lives, and nobody knows why Hitler never did it, because that was part of his plan. And these witches got together and they did that, and it worked because it was personal to them there in Britain. And it's working so well to for the book the gentleman in the witches in Nigeria, because again, it's so personal to them. So many of them in that area that want this to work because they're dealing with it on a daily basis. They're dealing with it in their lives, and it's affecting them. So I think sometimes when things affect you more personally in some ways, it makes you it becomes such a personal endeavor and a passion that you tend to put out more without realizing it, or maybe your energies direct to it more because you feel it personally, you
Right.
know? Yeah. What do you think?
Oh no, I agree with you 100%. My mother always said charity begins at home.
Yeah.
And we do have to look to our own interests. And I do believe that you're also correct in saying that they're being successful with their craft because it means something to them. These people are kidnapping their children, kidnapping their women, making them,
Their female
forced
little girls.
to
Yep.
marry people and
Yep.
selling them off. I mean, quite frankly, if someone came over here and tried to do that, I'd have no problem with annihilating them because I don't want my nieces kidnapped, my sisters, my cousins, anybody. I don't want
Right.
that happening. So if I feel threatened, if
Yep.
my sister or my nieces are threatened, then I'm threatened and I'm going to come at you. So I think that that's one of the reasons because they've got that passion to stop this. And passion, the emotion part of the spell is very important. We can't emphasize that enough to put the right emotions into it to get that energy going into. And I also have my own personal belief that we're all here for different reasons. So I can watch television and I can get upset when I see the commercials that show children who are starving or animals who are abused. But I can also say to myself, and you know what? There are people who are born into this world where their passion is to protect children and animals. That's their thing, that's their path. And what I can do to help them is maybe I can send them some money to help them out, but that's not my
Right.
path. We also have people who are born healers, so they become doctors or nurses or alternative healers or advocates. They want to fight for people, so they become politicians and
Right.
attorneys. And I think it's important to let people do their jobs.
Yeah.
They're here to do their job. We're here to do our job. So
Absolutely.
while I am behind everybody 100% and I will do whatever I can to help to support them, I think my journey, my path, it's important for me to fulfill my own personal obligations and missions that I was here for, which, one of them is to promote the goddess energy, the divine feminine, so that we can balance out the divine masculine and finally bring order to chaos, train
Right.
other empaths. I train other witches, people have already up there that's made their third degree, the advanced methods and things like that. That's what I'm here for, to take people to the next level. And so I let other people go ahead and do their job. But if I ever got a phone call or an email or a message that said, hey, could you do us a favor? We're fighting this battle. Could you do a little spell or send some energy our way? Absolutely. I will do whatever I can to help you. But I think it's important for everyone to focus on what it is that they were put here for. Everyone was put here with a mission. And
Right.
if you know what that is and you focus on it, you will be successful in it, because it's something, like you had said, it means so much to you. So you can put that energy, that passion into it. And that makes, that increases the efficacy of the work that you're doing. So that's my personal
I
opinion on
agree.
it.
I agree. Essentially, that's what we were saying. If you honestly, and I wish more Black women would adhere to being witches, or step up to be witches, because honestly, I think we need to do something about the fact that the Black men are being killed off, or the Black women are being disappearing around the country.
Yeah.
But because there's so few of us that are Black witches out there and up front and center and are willing to work on things, I think there's a disconnection happening, and we need to unify about something like that. If you have, and I think, like, if you have kids, I have two boys, and I would like to make sure they never go to jail, or they never have any run-in with the law,
Right.
or they don't get killed in any way by police officers out there, because you do feel that threat from them as a parent, and especially as a Black parent. So um, but I do feel a lot of times, you and I both know, there are not many Black witches out there, or if they are, they're not stepping up, or they're not verbally saying, I'm one. You
Mhm.
know, they are afraid. It's not of the norm. It's not, they're very much into the Jesus. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying um, they're not doing enough, in a sense, other than saying, to me, it's like, like, leave it all up to Jesus. I'm sorry. I don't believe that we should just leave it all up to Jesus, even if that was my religion. I think we need to do the other side to it as well, and say, because Jesus, according to their Bible, says helps those who helps themselves, right? So
Mm.
if you don't help yourself, how are you expecting him to do it all and leave it all up to him, kind of a thing? So that's just my little take on that little part.
Well,
Yeah.
no, you're right. Believe it or not, I actually used to teach Sunday school.
Hmm.
And one of the things that the Bible says is basically, if you don't work, you don't eat. And that's not to be taken just literally, that if you don't work, you're not going to have money for a roof over your head. If you don't work, you're not going to have anything. You're not going to have love or happiness, the things that you need to be working for, which is, what we do with our craft is we work towards a goal. We set our intention and we work towards a goal.
Right.
And so, and I also do not subscribe to the theory to just wait on the Lord, because that's just lazy. And
Yeah.
you really need to just get up off your butt and do
And
something
do something. Yeah,
and help
yeah.
yourself
And I
out. So
wanted to quickly say what Goddess Tamara and Goddess Pro said. Goddess Tamara said, would it be appropriate to do a spell for the elderly and handicapped disabled persons here in the United States? Would that be specific enough? Absolutely.
absolutely, without
If
a doubt.
that's something that calls to you, or is specific to someone at home with you, or something like that, I guess you can say, I'm disabled as well, and I'm on the way to recovery, I'm hoping, but you never know. And I would definitely, I'm on the other side, and I'm seeing how it works for them. I did not know what it's like for disabled people before. Make it, if it's specific to you or to someone that is close to you, you darn tootin', you go for it.
Absolutely, 100%. Especially, I have so much sympathy for people who are really sick and nobody knows, they don't have any outward indication that they have MS
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
lupus or any cancer or anything. You think they're just, everybody's walking around just fine. And a lot of people won't tell people because there is still a stigma attached to being what they call disabled. you know, I know what it's like to have to get over my arthritis and all, you know, the other things from my Lyme disease. And a lot of witches have a multitude of health problems. Mainly, I personally believe, because most of us are empaths and we actually take it from other people, because it seems like the norm is we all seem to have some sort of immune disorder or autoimmune disease where it
Right.
can mimic all kinds of different things, and we pick up all kinds of different things from different people, so it translates within us that way. And so I personally would be very happy if you did a spell to help the elderly and the disabled. You know, sometimes it hurts me to walk around. Goddess
Yeah.
Star will tell you I was a total crybaby when we went to Hex
New
Fest,
Orleans. Yeah.
and I have arthritis in my ankles and my knees, and I have bone spurs and plantar fasciitis in my feet. So walking is something that really hurts me, but I tried not to show it. You know, I tried to be strong, because there's got to start with a freaking walker. I mean, making me look like biggest crybaby in the entire world. So I
No,
just
no,
sucked
no.
it up. I swallowed my pain and I kept going. And a lot of us
And
do
you
that.
did it. You did
We
it.
did it. We
You
walked
did
all
it. I'm
over, and
telling
I
you.
actually
She
felt better for it.
complained.
I was like, you know what?
Yeah. She complained, but she did it.
I
Don't care what she
whined
said. She did
my
it.
ass off. I'm not going to lie to you. I whined and complained the entire
I
time,
know, right?
and I
And
had
I'm just like, we're
fun,
gonna do it.
and
We're
I
gonna do
had
it.
Luna. Luna was singing to me, trying to get me to move, and we really got going. And
We
I
were
was
like
really
her
glad.
side band. We were like her side band, singing and saying things to her and making her go. And the thing is, my knee, I had just done my
Yes,
surgery
you just
not too
had
long
knee
ago.
surgery.
Both my knees were replaced with titanium and just done recently before we got there. And I was just like, I don't care. I'm going to do this. I don't care. And I kept walking. When I got back to the hotel, my knees were so swollen and I was in pain. But I was like, I don't care. I'm going to do this.
I agree. When we finally got back, when we reached my hotel and you guys let me go, my ankles were really swollen. My feet were killing it. I felt so triumphant. Like I did not let this defeat
Yeah.
me. And it was because of the support of my witch sisters that got me through this. And
Yeah.
so, you know, supporting each other, building each other up, especially as witches, is so, so important, because if it wasn't for Star and Luna literally pretty much dragging me to walk, I would have caught a cab and I would have just felt sorry for my ankles and gone back to the hotel. But they inspired me to
Luna
run.
was singing to her, and Luna was singing and telling her jokes, making her laugh even when she was in pain.
Yes, even when I was in pain. And Goddess Star had no mercy whatsoever. She just
Right, girl, let's
walked
go. Let's go.
us here and there and everywhere. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Well, let's get back to what we were talking about. So yes, getting back to your question, it is absolutely appropriate to
Absolutely.
pick up the sword for the cause that means that much to you, and go ahead and go for it. Do what you feel you have to do to help others, because all you're doing is helping people, and there is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And Goddess Pearl said, I also believe the more personal and specific, the better chance of the results being in your favor. And I
Absolutely.
agree wholeheartedly. I agree wholeheartedly because it does. You do see the results work so much better. And people would be standing back and going, how did you do that? I mean, it's impossible, you know? Well, it's impossible if you don't, you gotta do it.
You have to do it. That's really all there is to it, is you just have to suck it up and you just have to do it. But it's very, very helpful when you have your witch sisters behind you to support you and carry you through your pain to your
And
destination.
and
It's
just
a
so you know,
beautiful feeling.
Goddess Ginny said, and as a big joke, she said, "There you go, Goddess Rhonda, you did it, and you didn't wait for Jesus to save you." I thought that was funny. I had to tell you that.
Okay, I have to applaud. That was good. That was good. That
She
was
did
really
not
good.
wait for Jesus to do that. She did it. She did it.
I did it. It was under protest, but I did it, and I felt so good after it. So, and I just wanted to really say thank you to Goddess Star and Luna, because that's what support, that's what we're supposed to do for each other. We support each other through our pain and get us to our the place where we need to be. So
Yeah.
I think that that's really great. So what are we going
Yeah.
to talk about next, Goddess Star? What do you got there
Yeah.
on your
So
agenda?
yeah, yeah. So I want to move on a bit and let's say, what do you think are the pros and cons of witches actively getting involved in fighting wars? What do you think about that?
Okay, well, I think there's a bunch of pros that can go with that. For one, solidarity. It's something that really upsets me is when I go into one of the many Facebook
Oy.
pagan groups that I belong to, and someone will say, you know, I took my amethyst today and I put it in the sunlight to get the sun, and now it's all powered up and I'm going to use it for whatever spell. And someone writes back, oh, that's not the way to do it. You know, you could have done this wrong, you did that wrong. And then you get a whole bunch of people telling you what you did wrong.
Oh
And
yeah.
because it's not that anyone's doing anything wrong, everyone is doing things in their way, the way they're supposed to do it. And so having solidarity, when everyone is fighting for a cause, then we will come together, we'll forget our differences, maybe we can learn together and join forces. You can use your tradition, I'm going to use my tradition, Goddess Jenny could use her tradition, but we're all fighting for the same thing. And that creates solidarity instead of the little infighting that we see in groups when someone will present an idea that they had and then they end up getting shot down, because that doesn't make a person feel good. And I especially feel badly for the newbies because they don't know enough how to defend themselves and say, excuse me, my way is the way that I'm going to do it. You have your way, so respect me and I'll respect you. They don't know that yet, and then they'll try to do something that works for someone else and not for them. So
Right,
having
right.
that solidarity, that unity behind that we're all working together, I think that in itself is a huge benefit. And just
Right.
imagine what we could get done if we joined
Well,
forces and
yeah,
worked
yeah.
together.
Or just wording things differently. All they had, I mean, first of all, everybody does things differently. And
Hmm.
the one thing about witches or witchcraft in general, practicing our crafts, is the fact that we are supposed to respect everybody coming from their own angle, because it doesn't mean any one way is right. It just means that this way is better. Something in particular that is wrong about a particular thing, then just say, that sounds good, but you have to also think about this,
Right,
without putting the person down or sounding like if you know better than everybody else, because you don't. No one knows everything. So despite what they think, take everything with a grain of salt. And one of the things I always try to remember is, and I teach at my school, I'm always saying to people, to me, one of the things I love about witchcraft is that it's such a logical thing.
hmm,
Everything about witchcraft is logical, which is why it agrees with me so well. If you think about something logically, and when we say, oh, anyone says something, if it does not make logical sense to you, then, that's not for you, the
right,
way they're saying it. But if it logically clicks and it says, oh, that makes sense, I didn't think of that, then take it for what it is.
right.
But no one way is right, okay? With everything for everyone. Just letting you know, it's just a matter of knowledge. If something illogically is doesn't sound right or sound right to you, then there you go.
Absolutely. And I think another benefit to that is that it is an opportunity to learn more. Just doing the show, I have learned so many different aspects
Yeah.
of various traditions and various techniques that I might not have stumbled upon. I mean, I've got 5,000 books. I don't have time to read all of them. So I'll buy books and I'll stick it on the shelf, and maybe in 10 years I'll get a chance to take it down and
Yeah.
actually look at it. This is an opportunity to learn new things that can only hone your own skills. We're supposed to constantly learn. Once we get into the limited, my way is the best way and I don't need to study anymore because this is absolutely perfect, that is when you're in the abyss and swirling downward, you're spiraling downward, because now you've gotten so full of yourself that you think that you know everything, and you can't know everything.
Yeah. No one does.
Nobody does. So I love learning from other people. I love getting new techniques, new tips I can try. Some of the tips I've tried for other people, they haven't worked for me, and that's okay. It just
Yep.
might not gel with me, but other things have.
I've,
And
I've done
so
the same thing. And I've told you, some of it works for me and some of it doesn't. And I say, well, you know what? Hey, that's life. And I go, okay, I'll go back to this thing because I found this one works better for me.
Right.
Or I'm like, I'm sticking to that new thing, you know? It's so awesome, it works.
Right. Right.
You know, you can learn something from anyone, even a newbie. Okay? And I
Absolutely.
don't like people making newbies feel as if they don't know anything, because you do in some way or form. Otherwise you wouldn't be there, you
Not
know?
only that,
So
another thing to remember about newbies is even though they're newbies in this lifetime, they come from a lifetime of being witches. And
yep.
they can have spontaneous memories of how to do something that could actually work for you because it's something, a soul memory from antiquity that works. So you can't just say, oh, well, you're a newbie, you don't know anything. They're still carrying those memories. You know, I'm sure that you got a star, have done things that you didn't read in any book. It just came to you to do it
Yep. You
because
kind
it
of go with your intuition and it worked.
and it worked.
And people will either call you or tell you how well it worked. And I was just like, it just came out of me. I didn't
Right,
know where
it
it
just
came
came
from. It
out
just
of
came.
you, or you could be guided by a goddess or a
Yep.
god that's whispering in
Or
your
a
ear.
spirit guide, whatever it is. They tell you things and you it comes forward. Or like I've actually dreamt about things that I did in another lifetime. And when I use it
Ah,
now, it works. It works. So, I mean, who are we? Who's anyone out there to say this is not being done right?
right,
It's different than me saying to you, how are you calling the quarters, or the element or the elementals or the watchtower? That's very different. You
right,
have to understand what your wordings are saying, but what that the wordings of that is different as opposed to what spell you're doing. Very different.
right.
Oh,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think those are two good. Did you have any extra reasons that any benefits else's any oh God, I can't speak. Well, I should put the wine down, Rondi, but I'm not going to. I'll just take another
yeah,
sip
there
to
you
clear it
go.
out. Can you think of any other benefits in joining together to fight?
Well, one of the things I will have to say, yes, there are, like how the British witches years ago, they had a benefit because they wanted to see there was a bigger picture involved. It wasn't just them. It was about a bigger picture of many millions of people they had to save. So they got together to do that. There is that aspect. And then it could be something so simple as, like I said, a few moms getting together to do a spell to protect their boys in general. I remember I did, and I didn't do it with a group of people, but you do know that energies are better when you do ritual together with people.
Sure.
Generally expand and they become exponential, and there's so much there that you can garner because you can feel the energies almost vibrate when you do ritual in group with people. You can feel that energy vibrate and spread out, and when you leave, a lot of witches say they high from it because they're not a regular high, but an energy high, because they can feel it. And or sometimes they go home and they can barely they like hyped up,
Yeah.
they can't rest, and here is at midnight and they're like and they're like, I said you should have grounded. I
So
told
I
you
was
to
going to
ground.
say
Oh,
that's what we
they
go.
a lot of times they don't listen because they're so busy being, oh wow, this feels so great.
I
I'm
was
like,
going to say, but
ground,
it
please.
feels
You gotta
good.
ground it out. And you try to guide them into grounding it and letting it go, or sending it somewhere specific, you know what I mean, in ritual, because I do that a lot when I tell them ground. I said either ground out that energies or pass it on to yourself, like me with my injury or whatever it is, your disability. If you want to stop some of the pain, put some of the energies there, or send it out to someone that that may need it, because it does create a buildup of amazing energy, but I do know it depends, Goddess Pearl said earlier, when something is very specific to you, the energies you create does make things work really, really well in your favor. Because I remember doing a spell for the protection of my son, and I said at the time when I was doing it, I was said for all of the parents that I know of that needed to protect their kids.
Hmm.
And to this day, my son has never really gotten hurt, because my whole thing was I couldn't stand to see them get hurt or to cut or any of those things, so they were not allowed to fall and get hurt.
Oh,
They were
that's so
not allowed to get
sweet.
hurt.
Oh,
I didn't want to run them to the hospital or any of those things. So they never did. They never did.
that's a beautiful thing. I also
It,
think it's an opportunity to expand community. You know, I
yes,
cannot
it
tell
is.
you the thrill it was when we went to Hex Fest to be
Yeah.
surrounded by witches from all over the place. I felt at home. I felt comfortable. I felt at ease being around my own people. And to meet all of these people, you know, I've made great connections. I'll probably be friends with some of these people for life. It's
Yep.
awesome to expand that community. So I love that. But
Yeah.
now that
Yeah.
we've talked about all of the benefits, let's talk about the cons. What do you feel is not a benefit for us to gather together to fight?
I think, oh boy, that's a hard one in a way because I think, in a sense, when it's, again, I'm back to that, when it's not a personal thing to you, it's very hard to, I don't think it benefits anyone. I mean, you may have added your energy, but I don't know if it necessarily benefits anyone because your energy is not placed in the right place, I think. Not entirely. Um, but I have to think more about that because I think there's more to it in the sense that, um, I don't know. Let me think a bit more about that. What about you? What
Well,
cons did you come up with?
the cons, one of the cons I came up with is by joining together publicly and fighting back, people will see that we're not like a TV show. We are actual practitioners with a viable skill. And I think initially that they would accept it because it's helping them to win a war and make them feel safer. But once that war is over, is that going to make them afraid that, oh my God, look at these group of witches, they're stronger than us and more powerful than us, they're going to take us over and
Uh,
you know those things. So I'm wondering, would
will
that
there be a backlash? Yeah.
there could be a backlash. I'm not saying that would happen, but I'm just
But
looking at it from every angle. My hope,
right,
excuse me, is that it would inspire more people to pay
right,
attention or even just acceptance and appreciation of it. Even if
right,
you don't, you know, if you want to stay within your own spirituality, which is fine, at least, you know, an acceptance where I can come in with my witch hat and my pentagram and people will say, hey, you know, good job, or I like what you do, instead of, you know, putting up a cross and running away from me. So,
you know what it is? I think I agree with you entirely, but I don't know necessarily if they will go to such an extreme about putting up a cross. But human beings are interesting. When they need you, they'll reach out to you. When
yeah,
they no longer need you, all of a sudden you become a threat because you have power. Um, and rather than revering that power the way they did initially, they begin to fear it. And what does humans do when they fear something? They try to destroy it.
yes, they try to destroy it.
So
That's actually,
I didn't think of that when you until you mentioned what you did. That fear is what's going to make people, like you said, retaliate, and they'll forget, wait a minute, we asked them or we approved what they did,
mhm,
and now we're all suddenly afraid of them.
right.
You
And
know,
you know, and aside from that, also, the reason I thought of that is because I've been studying the original Illuminati. I'm not talking about the Illuminati that everyone says that Jay-Z and Beyonce are a part of and they're taking over the world, which is, you know, maybe they are, but I'm just not going to go ahead and subscribe to that. I'm not going to
but
do that. But the original Illuminati were about enlightenment and bringing equality between men and women, teaching people basically how to use energy to help the same things that we do. That's what
right,
they wanted. They wanted to enlighten people, tell people how they could do better, and spread. And they were in Russia, and what happened was they became so powerful that Russia declared it illegal to be in a secret society, a witch, anything like that. And so they ended up, filtrating into the Rosicrucians, the Masons, and I'm sure they have other secret organizations that nobody knows about because they got persecuted when all they were trying to do was bring world peace and come under what they wanted, what they called one order, where we're all peaceful and we all get along and everything is great, and we teach people how to use energy to do things. And that was considered to be such a threat that they had to disperse. This was in the 1700s, and they had to disperse, and now I guess they do their own thing. And I'm like, here's a group of people that had nothing but good intentions, but because they became so powerful, the government got afraid and pretty much decimated them and
Yeah.
persecuted them, and they had to. It was like the witch hunt all over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Well, then,
that's what I think could happen, is that people, when they think that you have more power than them, which anyone can use it, it's not like, we have some special gifts. We all have this. All you have to do is learn and develop it. They can get angry and afraid. And it's that fear that keeps us in persecution. And that's one of the things that I
yeah.
see that could go wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I entirely agree with you because in general, when again, like both of us are saying, fear breeds not just a contempt of sort. Um, it makes people lash out, and like you said, they all have it innately inside of them, but they're not going to take the time to find that because of their Christianity or whatever else that suppressing it. Um, they're not going to take the time to develop it. They just think that person is powerful or that group is too powerful. Is the reason why any kind of witch coven or whatever it is had to hide for so many centuries, because people were always saying they do bad things or they're very powerful or the fear. It's always based on fear.
I agree.
And I
My
think even among us as witches, you would see a lot of what you'll term witch wars and all the different things. I think again it's based on fear of you know you may be more powerful than I am, or what. Everybody has a power within them. And I think if they learn to respect one another's power for what it is, and support one another, that is a kind of utopia, I guess. It would work, but I think we're too busy also judging one another without realizing it. A bit of Christianity popping into there with witches as well, because they're so busy saying one is better than the other or whatever it is. And I'm like, get over yourselves and stop acting like little brats. Essentially, that's what they sound like to me. Like brats. That's just like, grow the hell up.
I know, girl. I
I don't
know.
have the time for it. It's like too much energy wasting, but there you go.
I agree with you 100%.
You got the jealousies and the insecurities it's all there. And among witches, sometimes it becomes expanded and and that's when all the witch wars and everything happen.
Right. Which
I told you,
actually,
I told you I've had one of them say to me, "What do you want, a witch war?" I can't remember for what. I cannot even remember what it was for. And when she said that, I was like, well, you can't really have a war when I'm not even fighting. I'm sorry, but I really don't have the time.
yeah, right
I
beside
was
you.
just, I was just like, I'm really tired. I don't have the time for this right now. And I hung up. I was just like,
Good for
what do you mean?
you.
And when I got off the phone, I was like, what do you mean a witch war? What are we talking about here? Are we kids? I
Right.
just ignored them. And she had a war by herself, all attended by herself, with herself, for herself. I was just like, I'm
That
like, and I
is,
think she was like, at the time, she was like 55. I now turn 55. Are you kidding me? Please.
wow, that's a shame. She's in her 50s.
Yes. And they act like this. I'm just like,
Well, that actually leads me to my next point of what could, and again, please, if you have opinions, by all means, go to our chat room. If you don't know where the chat room is and you're watching this now, right at the top of the description, right underneath this broadcast, it will give you the chat room link. So by all means, go ahead and click on it and feel free to give your opinions if you choose to. But my next point of something that could go wrong with it is while it sounds great for everyone, let's jump on the bandwagon and let's fight terrorism or let's go to war with these people, if you haven't studied war or defense magic and you don't know what you're doing, it could go wrong very quickly. And that energy can bounce back to you. War energy is very aggressive and assertive. And you're drumming up all this energy and you're putting a volley of energy over there. And if you don't know what you're doing, it could boomerang back and you could actually end up hurting yourself. And also, while it sounds great to get out there and fight, you have to be ready for a return volley of fire. If I walk up to you and push you on the ground, I can't expect you to just lay there and do nothing. I'm going to expect you to get up and punch me or hit me or defend yourself. So you have to be ready not just to do offensive magic to fight, you also have to do defensive magic
and
to
protect yourself.
protect yourself, because if you throw something, expect somebody to throw a rock right back at you. And so you have to, and I think a lot of people might jump on the bandwagon. Hopefully they won't just look up some war magic on the internet and try something without being thoroughly prepared on how to defend yourself. If you don't know how to defend yourself, then please do not do this, because when that return energy, when the enemy decides to fight back and sends it back to you, if you're not ready, you're going to take a serious hit and it could really badly disrupt your life. So
Yep.
my
Sometimes it makes
fear,
you physically ill.
exactly. So my fear is if you're not trained in it, then stay away from it until you can be trained in it, because you could end up hurting yourself a lot worse if you're not ready for this type of thing. At least take the time to train yourself in different defense tactics and offense tactics before you just pick up the sword to go into this. We don't send soldiers into battle untrained. Nobody joins the army and then they have no training in guns or how to survive. They're just handed a gun and sent out there to fight. No, that's not how it works. They're trained heavily before they're sent into war
Right.
with the intention that so that they have the skills that they can fight, survive, and win, as opposed to not having any kind of training or defense techniques. If I send a soldier out to war with no training, he's probably going to die and quickly, because
Right.
I just sent him out there with no armor or anything. And so that's one of the things that my fear is that people will be passionate about it, jump on the bandwagon, and not be fully prepared
Right. Right.
for to
There's
defend
that.
themselves.
And you just reminded me also, age plays a big factor too, because there are a lot of elderly that are strong, but it will take a toll on some of them. That's why some of the witches with the war with the Nazis, some of them died during that
Mm,
process of the whole thing because of their age and different things that they consider that sacrifices, but they were older, and a lot of that defense part they were offensive and everything, but they a lot of them died, got sickly from it.
right,
um you have, like she said, boxers, soldiers, everybody learn to keep another arm up. You're punching, but you keep another arm to protect yourself. You got to do these things. It's just reality, and the same thing works for witches as well, and then or for any practitioner of any type of thing. It's the reason why I said, for the Nigerian witches and they that are doing their magic, they know what they're dealing with. We
mhm,
will not know what they're dealing with. So even though we put up protection, we're not protecting necessarily in the right places because we were not trained in their type of art of war.
right.
Which is why I said I don't agree necessarily with us putting in our energies towards that. I think they're doing just fine on their own, and they know how to combat their type of war.
Right.
So it's something that you have to be aware of and be as even if you're being trained in this, to train in every aspect of it, how to defend, how to deflect, how to punch back, how to every part of it, because war is war. There's no everybody thinks they're doing the right thing, and everybody thinks that their war is the right one, and everybody, you know what I mean? So
Right.
you have to see everything from all perspectives, all
I
sides.
agree.
And it's not a movie. You can't see everything from every angle like in a movie, and you could make a wise decision about this because now you're seeing the whole thing from a movie angle. Life is not like that.
Right.
You're not seeing that movie from every angle and going, oh, I should do this. No, it doesn't work that way in real life. So you do have to be wise about it, you know,
I
and
agree.
be,
I agree. And because, the other thing with that is once people go public and say, we're going to join forces and we're going to fight you and we're going to kick your butt, they're just going to go and get their own witches. Muslims have witchcraft too. They might not call it witchcraft, but they have their own little things that they
yep,
do,
you
energy
forget.
work.
Yep, you
They're
forget
not
everywhere
forgotten.
around the world. Everywhere around the world, they have their own type of witches or witchcraft.
They won't
They may
call
not
it
call
that.
it that. It may be called a different name, their tribesmen or their witch doctor or whatever it is, but they're there and they're
Exactly.
just as powerful, and they're clad and trained in their type of warfare. So here they are trained for their type of warfare, and you're coming from a different part of the world. Two different things altogether going on here.
Absolutely. And I believe that a global witchcraft war could actually cause even more devastation than fighting it out with guns and bombs because they'll poison the water, they'll ruin crops, they'll do all kinds of things that the governments might not do, but they will. And so it could actually get to be
Damage a lot
something,
more damage, do a lot more damage.
a
Yeah,
lot more damage. So, we talked about the good points, which are really good points. We've talked about the bad points, which I think are equal in measure. I guess you just kind of have to go with what your own opinion is and what your own beliefs are with that. But I do see that there's a lot of benefits to it, but I can also see where there could be some liability
yeah,
involved with doing it as well. And again, we would love to hear your opinion. So please feel free to join our chat room and tell us what you think about this,
yeah,
about about witches, or however you term yourself, again, witches, wizard, magicians, however you term yourself. If you feel like we should pick up the sword and band together and battle it out, or should we just kind of do our own thing and protect our own little spaces? So I would be very curious, and I'm sure Goddess Star would also be curious to hear
yeah.
what your opinion is on those topics.
Okay.
Because we could go on and on about that. I mean, we've still got a million other things to talk about. So, and with that, we're still still with that regard. Um,
Right.
if we're going to lend our assistance, do you think it should be better if we just quietly do it alone? Or do you think we should work within a group?
Um, Again, it depends on the war and where it is and how close it is to home. When we had here in New York, when the World Trade Center bombing, meeting with the airplane back in September 11th, um, I remember trying to do a lot of healing rituals, either with friends of mine or alone. I did both. And it was all based on, I used up a lot of energy. I even passed out one of the times when I was here alone at home because I was giving so much energies because it was very personal to me because I was on the street that the plane came down on, at low, so low that our building, as short as it was almost hit by it. And it went down the street right ahead of us and into the building. And I personally felt that somehow I should have been able to save some people more or whatever it was. And so I went about it in different ways. And some of it I ended up like passing out or doing too much of something, and I said, I had to learn to step back, because sometimes something is just too personal, too traumatic on the system,
Mm-hmm.
and you try to do too much, and you will feel weak, or you'll pass out, or you're just using up too much of you to
Yeah.
give, because it becomes too much also when some people hold back, some people give too much. When it's a situation that's as traumatic and personal to you, you will end up sometimes passing out or getting sick from it,
Or
because you
getting
are
sick or getting
expending your
addicted.
energy so much with it. Yeah, exactly. So you do have to be careful with things like that, and not and then realize that, whether we realize it or not, a lot of us had PTSD. We were not at war, but we were in a war in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And we were dealing with a lot of different things with it. And people till today, have nightmares about it years later. So, or have repercussions health wise or different things. Um, and we all did the best that we could in the times that were there.
Right.
I used to drive at the time, and I remember taking my Jeep and telling them, "What do you need me to haul?" The police and anybody, they'll put stuff in the back of my truck, and I was just taking it to wherever they needed to take it. I didn't even think about it. I picked up my kids, they were in the car with me, and I was just driving things back and forth for them. We were all doing the best we can.
Yeah.
So in terms of even doing it privately, it kind of have similar things to the ones that are done in the group form, because you can have a bit more. It is so personal that you go at it like that, but also you do have a lot of retaliation with it, because sometimes you're dealing with trauma with it.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to be careful. I think you have to be careful on both points. You have to choose your battles. You have to know how to choose your battles, because not every battle you can pick up. Some battles, if I do this, I know I can make some changes for the better.
Right.
But like you said earlier, when you said that if we did something on a global scale, it may actually cause more damage than helping. Sometimes that's just the case, and we have to learn to pick the ones that should be worked on or should not be worked on. You know what I mean? So some magics are just better just said, you just say, okay, not that you're being abstaining, but you're kind of like you're doing neutralizing magic.
Right.
Then neutralize the situation, because if you do either one or the other, it might have ramifications. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to think about everything that you do where our craft is concerned or magic is concerned. You have to think about before you do. It's not a careless thought.
Right.
You know? So,
I
and
agree.
it kind of goes into some of what we're going to go into later with that review show.
Yeah, when we
So
get
I
to
can't wait for that part.
the magician, my
Yeah. So I can't.
idea. Okay, here's my idea that I think when I think of these things, I think of that show. Remember Mission Impossible, the series Mission Impossible, where you got your mission and you could choose to accept it or not. But if you got caught, they would disavow all knowledge of you. So your ass was on your own, basically. So
Yeah.
what they're really saying is we need you to go and put your life on the line, risk life, limb, imprisonment, torture. And if you get caught, don't bother calling us because we're going to pretend that we don't know you. And so I can, on the one hand, while I understand it's important to protect the identity of people who are in charge, because with war you want to take out the leaders first and then mop up the rest. So I could see where some leaders would want to want to keep them in the background so nobody knows who they are. So if something happens to me, they can recruit somebody else.
Right.
So I could see maybe something like that. I could see the sides of both working within a group. Like I say, when you work in a group, you get to learn things. There's a bigger sense of protection. But I also know that there are lone spies out there or lone people that are very powerful who can sneak in and out and do things on their own and protect their own identity, because it could be important to protect your identity. We don't want people knowing where you are and where to find you, and then the enemy's just going to go ahead and point the bomb at your house.
Right.
So I think either way, whatever is more comfortable for you is probably the way to go with that. with whether or
Right.
not you want to do it as a solitary and just quietly do your own thing, or if you want to work within a group. Either way I think is fine. I don't think that any one is better. Any one option is better
Right.
than
And as you said it, Goddess Ginny and Goddess Pearl had something to say. Goddess Ginny said, "At this point, I'm not sure we, as witches, wizards, magicians, etc., are united enough to come together for a common cause, and that's sad to say. I love that the group of witches and wizards in Nigeria are doing what they're doing, but when I think about us here in the United States, I don't know. I feel we are great at gathering in small groups, but nationwide or wide scale, again, she's questioning, she's not sure." And then Goddess Pearl said, "I feel we have power in our own interest, but also in the greater good. However, it is something that we shouldn't jump into because everyone else is talking about it or the trend, but it should still pull our spirit in a deep way for us to jump into it.
right.
Much thought, meditation, and honesty of one own's actions should come into play to go forward with a decision. You may want to assess your skills, as was said by both Goddess Star and Goddess Rhonda, and if you aren't prepared, perhaps the calling can change to getting prepared for the next fight that may call upon you." I
Right.
think that's two very beautifully said, very eloquently said by both Goddess Ginny and Goddess Pearl.
I agree. I think that was really well said and well thought out, and I definitely support that. I support that theory.
And it's sad to say that Goddess Ginny, I believe, is right that um, in the United States, like in Nigeria, she said that it's great that they were able to get together to fight a common cause, but she's not sure, that she's sad to say that in the United States, if they can do it, she's not sure if they know how to come together for the common good.
Hmm.
I hope I'm saying that correct, Goddess Ginny.
I agree with that. I do, because we're our focus, in here in the United States is mainly business and money. I think if you came and threatened everybody's money, then everyone will get up and kick your behind. I'm not kidding. Everyone
Isn't that
will
sad that
stand
it has to affect
together.
their bottom line, basically?
Yes,
That's kind of sad and
they will
pathetically
stand
sad. So,
together. But other
um,
than that, it could be a hard thing. All right, we're moving along here because as always, time is
yeah,
flowing
the
by
essence,
us. But this is a
time
fascinating
confusion.
topic. I'm so glad that we talked about that because if you're of a warrior nature and you know what you're doing and you want to get out there and fight, then by all means go to it. If you aren't sure how to do it but you want to, this is an opportunity for you to learn and study a whole new system and to master everything. There's an opportunity in everything. So however you look at this topic, use your opinion to turn it into an opportunity for yourself, either to learn how to fight or to get out there and fight or whatever it is. It's an opportunity for us to learn no matter what our individual opinions are. And that's something that we're supposed to be doing probably for the rest of our lives, is to constantly learn and evolve in our craft and our spirituality. So we're going to go ahead and let that topic go for now. We might revisit it later in the future, but for this moment, we are going to move on to our next topic, which is the discussion of the phrase harming none. Is harming none harming you? Now, on the surface, it seems like an excellent phrase to use when you're working magic. However, no matter what it is you're casting for, if you get it, that means someone else did not. So technically, you could be canceling out your spell before you even give it a chance to work for you by saying harming none. So what do you think about that, Goddess Star?
Um, I never thought about it like that because I guess because I don't just say harming none. Um, Whenever I've explained that harming none to people, I've always said harming none, including yourself. So I remember, I'm not sure if it was you that said a statement about harming none. Um, I forgot what the exact statement was, but I'll get back to that. I guess if it was you, you'd say it.
Yes, I know
Um,
exactly what it is. What I was saying was saying harming none, I felt interfered with my prosperity magic because in subconsciously I feel so bad for people. I never want to deprive anyone of anything. So if I'm saying harming none, subconsciously I'm saying, well, if I get this money, then somebody who needs it more than me isn't going to get it. And that's going to make me feel inwardly guilty subconsciously. And then I've canceled my own spell out because I'm an
right,
empath and I feel sorry for people all the time. So that phrase really did hurt me because I took it literally. So
right,
I changed it to always through positive ways and means so that it's a positive thing for everybody, as positive as it can be. It makes me feel better subconsciously. I feel there's no bad karma coming to me. And when I changed the phrasing, things got much better. Everything worked so much better because I wasn't
right,
fighting a subconscious belief and a subconscious guilt that I
right.
was depriving somebody else of something.
I think that works for you, and it can work for a lot of us. What you said, the way it says, as in a positive way for everyone, and that doesn't do any harm to saying it. I think that could be added to anyone's spell work because
Mhm.
I think it works out well. I think because you're an empath, it affects you more so. The harm none. Um, where to a lot of us, when we say harm none, if you're not an empath or you're not empathic in that sense, because empaths have different aspects that they pick up on.
Right.
Um, so it's like for me, for instance, when I've said, let it harm none coming to me, I've always thought when I say it, you know, so I use both now. But when I said it before, I've always seen it, you know, kind of divvying up to everyone the way
Hmm.
it should be, so that none of us are being deprived. I guess because I'm seeing it that way in my mind's eye,
Right.
I didn't see anyone being left out. Like no one, you know how that whole monkey story about, I think it was called the monkey story, where the guy asked for $1 million and he got it, but then when he looked around, his uncle was dead and he died, and he gave him the insurance from that. Um, so for me, in my head, I didn't want anyone to be harmed in
Right.
any way to for it to come to me. So when I kind of did it in my head, I will kind of envision this whole thing about everyone sharing it in some way. You know, I guess it's each of us are thinking of it in the sense of how we see it coming to us.
Right.
So
Exactly.
when
Any
I did
any
it that way, you're right. For you, because of
Mhm.
you're so empathic with people, your sympathies are in a different place with it. So you had to find another way to word it for it to work for you.
Mhm.
And for me, in my head, I saw it as a way where everyone kind of shared it, you know. So we kind of all deal with it in our heads in a certain way for it to be
Right.
acceptable. But again, I've always added to that, and it harm, do what he will, and it harm none, and including thyself and myself. I mean, because it's something that I've seen witches do all the time. They either smoke, do drugs, whatever it is. We all know somebody, some witch like that. Um, and I'm looking at them. I'm like, you say do what you will, ye harm none, yet harm none, but you're harming yourself.
Right.
You're harming yourself with the cigarettes or the drugs or the whatever it is. You're harming yourself. Whatever it is that you're doing damage to yourself. If your body is truly a temple, and you are truly representative of the gods and goddesses, then you're fucking up. Sorry. Excuse my French.
No.
Or my
Hey.
English. Excuse my English. I'm not, I hate saying that part, excuse my French, because the French don't use some of those words. So, but you know what I mean. Essentially, you're screwing up big time.
Right.
That's why I use such strong language with it, because you are. And if you're the enlightened one and you are supposedly knowing better, you are in a big way, you know. So strong language is required because you are doing that in a strong manner,
Right.
because you are that witch and you should know better, you know. So uh that harm none thing, yeah, always, I always tell people add that part in because you have to mean it for yourself. And just like again with the airplane, and it's, if it's going down or something's wrong, you got to give yourself oxygen first. then you can help the others or your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be saying harm none to everyone else and you're screwing yourself up.
Right.
How does that help everyone? It doesn't. So it's something to think about.
Well, it is. And you know what? And as I was pondering this, because I was looking at the question, I said, well, there might be something else and that I don't understand is when it comes to witchcraft, we will subscribe certain things that we do not subscribe to our mundane lives. If I'm going out, I had suggested to someone in a group, they were looking for a job. They had not been able to find a job for a very, very, very long time. And, they were suffering from it. And I said, well, why don't you go ahead and do a spell to get a new job for yourself? And they responded, oh, no, I can't do that. What if it costs somebody else a job? Or what if I'm
Oh
taking
my
a job
gosh.
away from a grandfather or somebody's got children? I'm thinking to myself, I said, you know what? Whether you cast a spell or not, if you're looking for a job and you get that job, somebody else didn't get that job. So taking witchcraft aside, put it to the side for a second. If I need a job, I'm going to go into that interview and I'm going to do everything I can to beat you out of that job because I need the job. I'm
Right.
going to have the best resume. I'm going to wear the best suit or clothes that I can, my best perfume. I'm going to walk in there with my knowledge and everything because I'm going to show what I can do for you. How why
Glamour
I am the
magic. You're
best.
gonna use your glamour magic.
And, no, I'm saying with no matter. If I'm just applying for a job as a mundane, I'm going to go in there in my best suit and my perfume and my hair's going to be all did up and I'm going to have the best resume and I'm going to do everything I can to beat out the 4 other people waiting for their interviews. I'm going to do everything I can because I need that job. And when in that moment when I'm doing my mundane work with no spells at all, do I really give a shit about harming none? Absolutely. I'm not. Absolutely not. I want that job. So I'm not worrying about whether the other 4 people are sitting there. Is it a mother, single mom, or a single dad, or do they need the money more than me? No, because I need this job. So without any witchcraft, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do everything I can to beat out the competition and get that job. But then when we add the witchcraft to it, it says, oh, but harming none, we can't harm anybody. Why do we put so many regulations like that into our witchcraft that we don't do in a regular lifetime? We don't do it in our regular lives. If I go into a mall parking lot and there's a space open and I'm at this end and someone else is
That's
at
my
the other
space,
end,
man.
it's gonna be a mad race to see who gets that spot. And I'm gonna do my damnedest to beat you to that spot. I'm even gonna put my blinkers on so look, I'm claiming this spot. Don't even think about it. This is my spot.
Yep,
Just
yep,
go
yep.
on and look somewhere else. It's mine. And I'm gonna fight you for this spot and we'll go and we'll
Damn.
see who gets the spot. But if I were to use my craft to do something like that, I wouldn't be worried about, I would be more concerned with, oh, well, I don't want to beat somebody else out of the spot. I'll just, harming none. There's the harming none again. So why do we put that into our witchcraft life and we don't put it into our regular life? Because the same person who said, well, I'm not going to use witchcraft to get the job, they're still going to go fill out all the applications, take the interviews, hoping that they get the job, not caring whether or not the 10 other people who need the job get it because they need the money and they're starving and they've got to feed their family and pay their rent or pay their mortgage. But when it comes to our craft, suddenly it's taboo. So why do we do
Yeah.
that? It
Well,
just doesn't
I'll
make
be
sense
honest.
to
I'll
me.
tell you, when it comes to mundane things like that for survival, I don't think about it as harm none. I think about it as, so that I would not have gotten this apartment. I wanted an apartment without a mortgage. I wanted whatever it is to have a home that I don't have to think about to pay for, as to rent. I've always owned something. So
Right.
I did it for me and I got it in a fair manner. And the young lady was very happy to get the money I gave her. So as far as I'm concerned, everybody worked out just fine. I didn't harm anyone. you know, I got what I needed. She got what she needed. Everybody was happy. But I will correct you on that part. There is No matter what you do, when it comes to things as mundane as a job or something like that out there where you have to compete with anyone, you're always using glamour magic. The minute you put on makeup,
Oh,
the minute you dress,
absolutely.
the minute you dress in that nice outfit, how many jobs have you gone to where the guy who is dressed in that nice business suit, you're like, crap, he might get that job because he's dressed a certain way. It's all glamour magic. All of it is glamour magic, whether they call it witchcraft or not. So you cannot, when it comes to certain things of presentation of yourself or anything like that, no matter what you say, you're using some magic, whether you call it that or not, because you want to present your best foot forward. You did the best resume, or you did what, all of it is part of your glamour magic. So, your face, your makeup, unless you are someone who really don't do any of that, don't wear makeup, don't do any of it, and you would find that you're wondering the whole time, did that other person get the job because they were dressed better than me or they had makeup on or whatever it is? Then who did you harm? Anyone but yourself.
No, I do agree with you. I believe, people might say, I don't believe in casting love spells. But Friday night, they will go and put on their micro mini and they'll do up their eyes and do their updo and put on their jewels, the bling to catch attention. To me, that is glamour magic. But what I mean is intentional. If I'm going to do
Right.
intentional glamour magic, then I'm also going to go ahead and charm my lipstick. I'm going to charm my clothes. I've done that, charmed my clothes, charmed everything to get out there.
You went all out with the
Oh,
glamour magic.
absolutely. If you're going to
Right.
do it, you're going to do it. But I guess my point is, I don't think there's really any such thing as harming none. Even though you've got that apartment and the seller was happy,
Right.
you
Right.
were happy, someone else didn't get it. Someone else
Right.
now has a
Actually,
bigger
you're right.
market.
There was another woman. There was another woman that offered her less. I offered her more. I'm sorry. I wanted it more, so I put out more.
So there you go.
That's life.
So
It's
I
life.
do
It's just like that
believe,
parking space. I would go for that parking space. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's my space. You know, at the time when I
oh,
once I get it, I'll be nice enough to go. I'll help you find another space, but that one's mine.
yeah, I'm not going to bother helping you find another space. You're on your own with that. And I am going to do my
Yeah,
damnedest to beat you out of that spot because I
yeah.
need it.
Because I
So,
needed it. Yeah, it's simple
that's the
as
way
that.
it is. But that's just exactly my point. If I look at it from my priestess point of view, then it's like, well, I'll just, maybe it's a mother and she's got kids and she needs the spot or whatever. I don't want to harm anybody. But in the mundane world, it's like, look out. It's I'm getting the spot or you're getting the spot, and I guarantee you I'm getting the spot. So, you're just going to have to go ahead and circle and find another spot. But it just made me wonder when I was thinking about it is that we will do things that we will not do in our spiritual life, but it's still the same thing when we're out there. Even when you go to the grocery store and you're checking to see who's got the less people online because you don't want to stand online forever and you make a dash because you say, oh, look, that register's only got 2 people on it. Let me run over there. And someone else sees you and they're
That's
running
right.
for it too because they want to get there first to pay for their stuff. We're very aggressive when it comes to our mundane lives, but then when we put on our priestess clothes, it's like, oh, harming none. Can't do that. Nope. That's just
That's
not who I
because we
am.
become
Nothing
two different
against anyone.
persons and we think in two different ways. But honestly, you got to be honest with yourself and straight up. You wanted that parking space. I wanted that apartment or whatever it is. And I'm sorry, it's mine. And I'm
Yeah,
happy I got it. But there's I know, I'm sorry. Yes, but it is life, in general. And I liked what, well, I'm going to get to what Goddess Pearl said, which is amazing. But Goddess Tamara said something that is true. She said, harming none. My Christian background grips good versus bad punishment. So I think tend to be too cautious and it may be weakening my spells. And it may be doing that because you're thinking in that harm none kind of way. And so you're not even like Goddess Rhonda was saying, um, you get to that part where you're just thinking so much about harming none that you've already nullified your spell.
right.
And we do that. People do that a lot to their own spells. They're wondering, why didn't my spell work? But you've already nullified it so many times. Or you begin the spell and you're like, a lot of people don't realize you need a bit of therapy sometimes before you do a spell, especially where love and money is concerned.
Yes.
I don't know why they have such guilt trips about it. But I've met witches who, or people in general, who have issues with love. I don't deserve that kind of love. I'm like, who said so? Who
Right.
said you don't deserve it? So already you're having me do a candle love spell for you, a love spell period for you, and you're basically in one word behind me saying you don't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you having me do this spell for you? You've already killed my spell by your
Yes, you
nullifying it
did.
yourself. You
Yes, you
just
did.
harmed yourself. You gotta stop harming yourself. That's a big part of witchcraft that you gotta stop. And then
Right.
Goddess Pro said, this is a good point. We don't think about others when we do mundane things. Perhaps when we think we add our craft to the table, we have the notion to think it's an unfair advantage because others have not found their power as yet. But I think we should stop limiting ourselves and it should be included as a part of us, not extra or separate.
Right.
And she's right, because this is a part of us. We have to stop separating, ourselves and going, well, this is me here in my spiritual life and this is me in my, but no, no, no. This is all me. Good, bad, or indifferent. This is all me.
I'm just laughing because I had this memory. My late husband and I, before I learned how to do Black Friday online shopping, where I don't have to get up and be somewhere at 3 o'clock in the morning to fight it out. Now I can just get up, go to the computer, order what I want, and go to bed. But we used to do the Black Friday sales. And we would get up and we would sit in the parking lot till the door opened and we'd go in there and we were ready for war. And I remember we went into, I think we were in Penny's, and I left my husband in the male pants section where he was battling over a pair of khakis with another guy on Black Friday because they were like $10 a pair or $5 for the Black Friday sale, and they both reached for the same size and they were arguing with each other. I left them to it because I had to go and get the luggage I wanted because they had this luggage, a whole luggage set for like $29. It was like a 4-piece set that all folded into each other. And on Black Friday, they only put limited amounts of things out because they want you to pay full price. And so I ran down to the luggage section and there was one luggage set left. And I was I was a good 10 feet away from it. And there was a man who was about 2 feet away from it reaching, and I screamed, "That's my luggage!" And I scared the guy, so he's like, okay, because I was running. I was prepared to mow his ass down for that luggage. I did not think, well, maybe he needed the luggage because he was going on a trip and he couldn't afford anything else. Screw that. I was going to have that $29 luggage set, and I commandeered it from 10 feet away, and I got my luggage set.
There
And I
you
know
go.
that
You
was
got
not
scared.
it wasn't very priestessy of me to do that. I understand that, but I really was not thinking in those terms because I wanted my freaking
You were like,
luggage.
that's mine.
That's mine. And I screamed it. I know I scared that guy. He's like, okay. Because all he saw was this woman running at him screaming, like a banshee. And men tend to duck from us when they see we're like this and we got our claws out and we're prepared to fight. They'll back off. So my husband also did get the khakis. He won that battle. So we walked out very triumphant that day. But again, it goes back to, we do things in our mundane lives that we don't do in our spiritual lives. But I just remembered that when you said that, and I just remember fighting out for that luggage. I still have that luggage too.
There you go.
I
It was
did.
yours. It was meant to be yours. There it
It
is.
was meant to be mine, and I was not leaving that store without it. I was prepared to physically fight that man for that luggage if I had to. I
And
would
I
have
think
known
he
him
saw
down.
that too. He's like, okay, all right,
Yeah,
finish.
he saw that. I know I looked crazy. It's it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. It was bad. But anyway, I want to talk about the new SyFy show called The Magicians. It airs Monday nights on SyFy. It's probably on right now or will be on later. And basically, it's about a magic academy called Break Bills in New York. It's a grown-up version, I think, of like Hogwarts, where instead of you finding out, which I think is also an interesting spin, instead of you finding out as a child that you have these abilities, you don't find out until you're an adult. They don't recruit you until you're an adult. And our and just so you know, there's no spirituality involved in this. This is just straight up magic and magicians. They don't bring any kind of religion or spirituality into it. Now, the main character is named Quentin, and in his mundane world, he's emotionally troubled. He sees shrinks. You know, they try to keep him in institutionalized, but he refuses. And he's very engaged in the set of fantasy books. Oh, to the point where it's like has taken over his life. Well, it turns out that he finds out that he is a magician and he gets invited into joining the Break Bills Academy, as does his best friend, Julie, but she fails the entrance exam. So she gets booted out and they keep him because he passed it. Well, they end up running into each other, and Julie was very upset that Quentin didn't help her, but Quentin's idea was, you know, either you're a magician or you're not, get over it. And so
Right.
what happens with the rejects of break bills, you're supposed to forget everything. They're supposed to do the spell. Apparently it doesn't work very well because the rejects get together, they call themselves hedge witches. And they gather up whatever spells they can find on the internet from people, and they try and share it and do their own thing. And unfortunately, Julie, the first thing she's taught how to steal money from ATMs and commit crimes and get away with it. While Quentin's got this, you know, upper echelon classical magician training. And it's really, really a good show. I'm really enjoying it. What do you think, Goddess Star?
I agree with you. And it's so funny because you said it's a grown up version of Hogwarts. And that's exactly what I had said when I saw it. I thought it was a grown up version of them and a combination of Charmed all put together.
Right.
Yeah, there was no religion part with it,
Right.
but it reminded me of those two shows combined. And of course, with them grown up all together. Um, and I liked, I don't know, it definitely made you feel like Hogwarts grown up. It definitely did.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of the witches, and you know, you had to have, I guess, the good and the bad. It shows you how magicians could be good and bad.
Hmm.
And in high magic, that's pretty much what magicians are. They are the good and the bad based on how they're coming at it, from what angles they see it from.
Hmm.
In the hedge witches, I guess, is I haven't gotten to that part as to what knowing what they call themselves, because I'm only in the second show of the first season.
Hmm.
um, but what I did get from it is that, um, in a way, Julie was jealous that Quentin was
Yes.
accepted right away, and she's a perfectionist. You know, how could he get in and she not get in when she's usually more intelligent than he is? Everything is so much more easier for her all the time, and here he is the first time on something else he's good at, and she
Right.
said,
And she got angry about that.
right. And what I did realize is that not that it does not work. When she realized that he was going to, who knows what the others did, when she realized that he was going to remove her memory, she took a knife and she cut herself on the
Yeah.
arm. So she will feel the pain, and if she woke up with that there, she will know that it's not a dream,
Right.
that she did this happen, and that there was a magician school, a university.
Hmm.
So I think each of them was so determined because they're upset that they were not being accepted, that they did something for them to retain that memory. And I don't think that the people who are doing the removal of the memory, I don't think they're thinking of people doing that. That people would actually do that because they don't want to be removed. I don't think that they should say what we're going to do, that they're going to remove their memory. Just do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh,
Just do
and
it.
they would not be able to retain that memory. But if you tell them and they're so determined to be there, they will find a way to still remember it, and try to countermand and become more powerful, because now it's their magic against your magic. We'll show you I have got that magic and I should have been chosen.
Right.
That's what it's all about. We'll show you I should have been chosen. And Julie went from being this really nice, supportive woman to her friend Quentin to now she's this person who is against him so much. I'm just like, are you flipped all of a sudden so much? It makes
Right.
no sense to me. But it seems like a really I can't wait to see the rest of it. to see how it all turns out. So, but I did notice that they, that whole practicing of magic to gain power. Um, I don't know about you, but one of the things I liked about the show was the dean said practicing magic is to gain power, straight up. And he said, but what kind of power and over what? And he said, the first thing you try to gain power over is yourself.
Right.
Because first and foremost, if you don't, you are going to become out of control. You are going to change and not for the good.
Right.
And he said, and isn't that what we're seeing with the hedge witches? A lot of what they are like is because they're out of control with their own emotions and their own selves.
Mm-hmm.
And he also said, gain power over the elements that are around you, work with them respectively and things like that. I like that. It was
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it seemed like it was being pulled from real life of what we study, even though they're not approaching it from a spiritual point of view. I thought that was interesting that they were saying that. And it seemed rooted in research of true magics or spell works that goes on with witches. So I think that was kind of cool that they did their research.
Yeah, I think they did a good job. And one of the things that also struck me is that Quentin and Julie were best friends from childhood. And Quentin was always,
Right.
the troubled one, that he didn't quite fit in into his fantasy books. And she was the go-getter, the achiever. She was going to do all these things, and she was used to guiding him and telling him what to do and all of these things, sell his books, get with the program, that sort of a thing. And then suddenly he gets into the academy. She does not. And she totally flips out. And it just goes to show how power can actually already start corrupting a person through jealousy. When you sense that someone has something that you don't, that power, it was enough. The jealousy over him getting into that academy, even though they had been best friends forever, because he got in and she didn't, she completely did a 180 and became jealous, and she wanted to go and she got involved with the hedge witches and was angry with him because he didn't help her get in and all of these things. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what, when you get some kind of a power, how people will turn on you and get jealous because they want your power. And this was a
Yeah.
prime example of how you could be friends on the same level, but if somebody in anything, whether it's magic or a job or your prosperity, your finances, whatever, will turn on you. People that you thought were your best friends, when you achieve suddenly they don't want to be your friend anymore. And I just, it's like, wow, that I think
That's kind of sad.
is sad, but it's also very true to life, because that happens all the time when someone senses that if they feel like you're more powerful than they are, they already, start muscling up because they want to be that powerful too. And they start trying to figure out how to take you back down to their level. And
Right,
that's
right.
basically what she was doing. She wanted him to go back to being the confused, emotionally challenged guy who lives inside his fantasy books, so that she could be the one going to Yale and achieving and doing all these things. And then when he finally made this big achievement in his life that turned his life around, she completely freaked out. Was like, well, why not me? Why didn't I get in? How come you won't help me get in? You need to talk to them and get them to get me in. And I was like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, what happened to your best friend that you've had since you were a kid? Where'd
Right,
that
right.
go?
And it's interesting because, he called her on it. He said, you know, you need to get over it because basically this is the one time you're not good at something, but so what? You're good at everything else. Just get over it, he basically said. And I like that. He basically said he grew up being
Yeah,
finally, I think finally where he fits in,
right.
and suddenly now she doesn't want to go to Yale. She's like, but now I know there's a University of Magic out there and it's real. I want to go there instead. I don't want to go to Yale. And she's going on and on. I'm just like, girl, get over yourself. And he told her that essentially. And she didn't
Right.
like that.
Right. And no, he didn't. He did not like that at all. He did not like that. And
Yeah.
the other thing that I really liked about the show was each show, and again, it's now the best time to really try to look at it. You can watch it online, even if you don't have cable, you can watch full episodes. on the SyFy
Yeah. And it's really
website.
good.
It's really good, and it's less commercials when you watch it online too. They only show like 1 or 2 commercials. But one of the things I also liked about it is that it shows you how things can go wrong if you don't know what you're doing. If you
Yeah.
decide you're going to try and do something that
I
is
saw that. Yeah.
beyond your capability. I don't want to say it now because you're only, I can't remember what happened in the second show. So before I say it, what happened
In the second
in the
show,
second
uh,
episode?
they are kind of experimenting without being trained yet. Like with certain parts of their training, they're kind of experimenting with other things, looking at books and not kind of going ahead with certain things. Only to realize, oh wow, we're screwing up. We didn't know how to do this, and now look at the repercussions. And it's Quentin and I forgot the young lady's name that's doing
Uh,
that, like a couple of their spells because they were just kind of experimenting. They were, I mean, and we're supposed to do that, but you kind of
right,
do it more cautiously and look at what you're doing, or if you're doing it, say you're dismissing it or whatever it is, but to walk away and not see what's going on with your spell, and then later on say somebody died or something like that. Um, it's like you really need to learn how to train, and that's why that University of Magicians are there, or Breaksville, I think is the name of it.
break bills.
Breaksville University
Hmm.
of Magicians, and he is essentially, he is right. It can, if you don't study, and this goes across the board, whether it's your craft or magic, and to me it's the same. It's one and the same. You can't separate the two because it's all
Right.
part of who it is. Again, that's just me saying that. Um, he is right. The dean is right when he says, um, if you don't learn your magic properly or your craft properly, he didn't say craft, but he said your magic. I'm using that. I'm adding living that part. If it will control you, if it controls you, you rather than you controlling it, that it can consume you, change you, change you into something else that is not you. And that real magic is out there and not to be taken lightly and should be studied and taken very seriously as such. And it's, I'm taking a bit out of conjecture at different parts,
Right.
but
Right.
it is basically what he says. And basically he's saying it the way we would say it if you were learning with us. You have to take this seriously. The words, your choice of things that you're using, what you're doing. And yes, that's why we call it the itis with certain people when they become full of ego and power tripping. It's the truth. It will, if they are no longer controlling that power and the power starts to control them, they're
Right.
power tripping. They'll become someone else. It will consume them and change them into something else. And you're looking at the person and going, who the hell are you? Yes. And it's not something to be taken lightly. And it happens all the time. We see it all the time. I know you have seen it. I have seen it. And
Mhm.
many I know that have seen it. And it is a sad thing to see. And the fact, that whatever we want to call it, power tripping, itises, or whatever it is there.
Yeah. So it's
What do you think,
basically
Goddess?
it's basically, the danger is getting ahead of yourself. Yes, these people that were accepted into this, Break Bills Academy, yes, they have latent abilities. Yes, once they're trained, they can probably do amazing things. But once they found out that they had these abilities, it was like, well, we'll just go ahead and cast some spells that they had no idea what they were doing and cause, I won't ruin it for you, but they caused all kinds of problems. And not just the hedge witches, which you would expect that from, because they're basically flying by the seat of their pants. They have
Right.
no clue
But
what
from the ones who are learning because they're not listening and they're not taking
exactly.
precautions, and they are, it's one of the things I did like that he said, and it's the truth. There is a reason, he said, there's a reason why we set up the classes in the order that they are meant to be in, because
Yes.
you have to learn each thing in the consecutive order of what they are. And it's the same thing with us at our classes that we do, because people right away come in the first day, can we just go to the spells or to the things that I'm the magic part? I'm like, but you have to learn this basics first before you get to that. It's like
Right.
they don't want to do that. They want to
Yeah.
jump to point C or Z way ahead, and they in the meantime you haven't learned that basics. So how could you get there? But you can go and study it yourself and get there, and then you're sitting there going, so what did I do to miss? What did I miss?
Right.
You know, it's 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 a lot of things that they're saying are very factual that I liked.
I really like that. I think it's done responsibly because a lot of the shows you watch, it can make you like, wow, I want to do that too, because they show the all the cool parts of the magic and the end results and things. This show is just seems to be hammering home episode after episode. Don't get ahead of
Repercussions.
yourself. Know what you're doing. Study. You can cause a lot of damage. And so I think there might have been some of their advisors or writers probably have some experience in the craft because someone decided to make a show of what not to do in magic.
Right.
Usually we watch the shows and we want to be like they are in Charmed and have all these abilities and do all these things and fight demons and all that stuff. And here this show is saying if you screw up, the ramifications and the damage that you could do because you didn't bother to be prepared are huge. And they go into that and they keep emphasizing that. So that's something that I really appreciated about the show because I hate it when people look at other shows and say, oh, well, I want to be a witch too because then I can find a love and I can do this and I can do that. And you think of all the great things you can have without, it's like driving a car and you haven't been trained to drive the car. You're going to crash. You're going to crash. You're going to hit somebody. You're going to kill yourself. You're going to kill a tree. You're going to kill somebody. There's all kinds of things. If I just put you in a car, hand you the keys and say, well, good luck, there's no difference than if I hand you a wand and a book of spells and no training and say, good luck, because things can probably go wrong and very quickly. You have to learn how to use the brakes. You have to learn how to steer. You have to learn how to signal. These sort of things, the same way you learn to drive a car. You have to learn how to drive your magic. And you want to do it safely and responsibly. You
Right.
don't just want to get out there with no training and hit the road. I did that actually once, and I'm just going to go ahead and go because I already started the story. But I was just a teenager. I think I was maybe 15 years old. Never drove a car in my life. And my older brother, Kevin, had gone and he had a root canal and he was in pain and he could barely talk. And he was in his 20s. I don't know what he was thinking. It must have been the painkillers. I don't know what the hell he was thinking. But he couldn't even talk and he just looked at me. He pointed his finger and did this, like, can I drive? And I was like, of course I can drive. I can drive. I don't know how to drive. I've never driven anywhere. And he says, okay, we wrote down on this piece of paper to go down to the deli and get him some cottage cheese and whatever
No, she
else he
didn't.
needed, to keep it thing. And I was like, okay, and he gave me the keys to his car. And so I got in that car and I started it up. I'm sure I did not observe a traffic light. Who knows what the hell a traffic light is? I'm sure I plowed right through it. Thankfully, the deli was only maybe 2 miles down a straight road. There's no turns or anything that I could really screw up, but there were lights. And I just drove. I didn't care. I didn't think about it. I didn't think about stop signs. I just drove and I did make it to the deli without killing anybody, got him his stuff, and made it back home without killing anybody. But as an adult, when I look back on that, I'm like, oh my God, was I crazy? Was my brother crazy? I could have died. I could have killed somebody. I could have killed myself. I could have hit
Yeah.
a tree. There's so many ways that could have gone wrong. Thankfully, the universe, the goddess was with me even back then and steered me there and back safely. But it's the same difference. If you give someone keys to a car or a truck and say, go out there, expect them to get into an accident if you're not trained. You might get
Right.
lucky. I got lucky that one time. And it was only that one time before I became a licensed driver and had
Right.
driving lessons and things like that to get me my license. But anything could have happened. Anything.
Yeah.
And I think,
Right.
it's the same difference. It's if you're untrained and you're driving a car, you can expect to get into an accident.
Yeah, I did at 8 years old.
You drove a car at 8 years old?
Yes, we were joyriding and we were driving in the backyard of my on the side yard of my aunt's house in Trinidad, and I drove into this giant tree. A giant tree, and it was about, going down a hill, and the tree stopped us. We were all going, "Oh wow, we crashed," and laughing and everything.
Oh my goodness. Anything could have happened. You could have died.
I know, but we came out all laughing like, drunk little kids, and we weren't drunk. We were just high on the
Right,
fact
you
that
were just
I
having a
drove
good
that car.
time.
I drove that car at 8 years old.
Wow, girl.
Right into one of those big Sakawa trees, that the big giant trunks.
Yes.
Oh yeah, full on.
That is freaking hilarious.
And
Well,
none of
I'm
us was hurt.
glad
We
that
were
I
good.
didn't, at least I didn't crash. So at least, but I remember when I drove to that deli, I didn't look at stop signs. I didn't look at the traffic lights. I was just so thrilled to be driving. I'm driving and smiling, going down the road.
I know, right? You're like, I can drive, I can
Anything.
drive. Hey, I drove that car straight into a tree, but I drove that
But
car.
you drove it.
Yep.
But you drove it.
So
That's the
I've been
important
driving
thing.
since I was 8. Yeah.
All right. Well, I see that our time is pretty much up. We covered a lot of things here. I really enjoyed this particular show talking about
And I
things
love the
sacred.
commenting from the
And I
from the
love
goddesses
the
and stuff in the
comments
in the in the
lately.
chat room. You guys were very eloquent, very awesome, and we really appreciated your comments.
As always, we so appreciate you guys in our chat room. We appreciate all of our viewers. And again, if you ever want to join our chat room, we always have it there. You don't have to be shy. You can join in and be opinionated, but you will always be welcome to join our chat room as well if you ever want to do that in our future show. So we're going to go ahead and close out our circle here and farewell our lords and ladies of the elements and the directions. We thank you so much for your kind service and return your energy back to source with our divine gratitude, and blessed be. And as always, here at the Priestess View, we wish you the best in success, in prosperity, in your magics, and hope that you have whatever power and experience and wisdom and knowledge and resources that you need to accomplish whatever goals that you are trying to achieve, because whatever they are, you can do this, and we are here to support you in that.
Absolutely. And again, merry meet, merry
Merry
part,
parts and
and merry meet again.
thank you, everyone. We'll see you
Thank
next
you.
time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.